Come back to Michigan for just a moment. Governor Whitmer extended and somewhat loosened the stay-at-home order. She's been under tremendous pressure, including from some put-together sort of AstroTurf protests that have been thrown at her door to try to get her to loosen the restrictions, which, of course, again, it's communities of color who would be rushing back to work and risk. It would allow in-state travel, motor boating, and golfing. Landscapers, lawn service companies, plant nurseries, and bike repair shops would also be able to resume operating, but all are subject to social distancing rules. And the order would allow stores selling non-essential items to reopen, but only using curbside pickup and delivery. Right now, the governor is polling at a pretty high level of trust. 61% say they trust her more than they trust Donald Trump, which is a fairly low bar. 34% trust Trump more than her. And 18% support loosening the restrictions. This sounds concerning because when you think golfing, landscaping, and lawn service, that's usually very low income, mostly brown and non-white folks that are out there that would have to be doing that. Can you make sense of the idea of loosening these restrictions in a way that would make a lot of very wealthy folks feel quite more comfortable? They could golf, but would have put a lot of poor folks in danger.
One of the things that I admire about the governor is I know that she's listening to the health experts, the doctors. Those folks are the ones kind of leading these policies. To talk about a little bit about, so-called loosening up, I'm not sure, how they made that decision, but I know this much. Many of our folks, and I tell you all, my 13 district strong residents, if you are afraid to go to work, do not go to work. And I know this is hard, but you have every right to make sure your life is put first and to fight back. I don't care if it's labor organizing this late in the game or if it's demanding that your life is not treated as if it's disposable. But I want you not to be afraid to go to work. You should not at all ever feel like, I don't care if it's a president, I don't care who it is that tells you we need you to go back. We need you to start up back the economy and everything. Your life is much more important. And so I always tell my residents when they call, they're like, Rashida, they're making us do this, they're making us do that. I said, do you feel safe? If you don't feel safe, you don't have to go to work. And folks are going to push back on me about this. But I want yourself to put yourself in their places. Some have family members. I know predominantly in communities of color, especially my African-American community, it's multi-generational. There's a great grandmother, auntie, whoever it is in the home that you can't be bringing that stuff back to, coronavirus to that person. You can jeopardize their lives. I mean, look at Skylar. She's 5 years old. People kept saying kids can't get it. Let's not test kids. Everything that they're saying are these assumptions that really put, I think, many communities, again, that are very marginalized, their lives at stake. And so I just really urge a lot of my neighbors and other folks that have called me and reached out to me and said, I don't feel safe. I want you to organize with your other coworkers and demand better. Demand that your life, again, is put first and that your health is put first. So I would push back no matter what these decisions and these other folks and these task forces that are being put together. Your gut feeling, follow that. It probably is much more credible than what you might see coming out of various administrations.
And I want to acknowledge, of course, that Michigan has a 24% unemployment rate. Nearly 24% of Michigan workers are unemployed because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So there is also an economic concern in people. It's not as if people are happy to not be taking a paycheck. So I think people need to acknowledge that when they talk about whether or not people should go. And people also don't want to die doing it. Before I let you go, you were Yes, go on.
No, Joy, but, like 30% of my folks are automotive workers. They're in a plant with hundreds of other people. Yeah. There's no possibilities to social distance, even in grocery stores. So many of my folks in Amazon warehouse in Romulus, do you know how many people are calling me saying they're not practicing what they need to be doing, at Amazon? I mean, they were giving people one piece of wipe until we fought to get more. I mean, those are the kinds of things we need to be organizing around and pushing back against. But it's becoming impossible because this is a working class. These are folks that don't work in, small cubicles or have their own offices and can telework. These are real folks on the ground, what I call frontline workers that cannot, do what the CDC is asking them to do. But the CEOs and the corporations and those folks, they keep pushing against that. And that's where I say organize at workplace, push back against it. Your life matters. Yeah.